But fellas, let's move on to the NFL. Unfortunate new Justin Tucker um is suspended for 10 games for violating the league's personal conduct policy. The NBA released it, the NFL released it Thursday afternoon. Reading an article here from Grant Gordon of NFL Network. The suspension of Tucker, 35 years old, will become effective on August 26th, the league's 53-man roster cut down day, and he will be eligible for reinstatement on Tuesday, November 11th, as noted in the league release. As also noted in the announcement of Tucker's suspension, he is eligible to serve out of his suspension while he is a free agent. He's also permitted to sign with any team at any time and can attend training camp and participate in preseason games. Um, Tucker was investigated following allegations of sexual assault. It says here it took place from his rookie place through 2012 through 2016. The allegations of improper conduct were initially reported by the Baltimore Banner back in January 30th. Keep in mind, Justin Tucker was released by the Baltimore Ravens back in May. So I am kind of shocked that the NFL already came down with a suspension with Justin Tucker already. I thought they were probably going to do it a few weeks before the regular season or the preseason. But yeah, it seems to me, guys, it's the end for Justin Tucker because last year he did not have a good season last year. And I'm afraid at this point, how is he going to respond? Not just physically, him being out of shape, because again, in order to play football, you got to be able to play football. He's going to be out. So we don't know what type of condition or shape he's going to be. And then, of course, mentally, because we look at Deshaun Watson right now, who had the exact type of situation as Justin Tucker, went to a different team, got traded, got paid $230 million guaranteed. At that time, the highest paid player, highest paid contract. And look at him right now. So it's a hot mess in Cleveland right now. And with Baltimore, as long as you can get an adequate kicker, hey, it helps your chances as far as the Super Bowl because you've had a tremendous offseason. I think Baltimore decided to let him go because they felt like if they knew anything more, and this is just speculation on my part, if they knew anything more, they would have received a ton of PR backlash. Because remember the whole Ray Rice video tape, the elevator incident. And if Baltimore knew about all that stuff and still kept them, then they would have received a ton of backlash. And I think Baltimore just figured, you know what, because of the year that he had last year, and given the magnitude of these accusations, we decide it's best to move on from him. The thing is with Justin Tucker, not only appears that his career may be over, but the Hall of Fame. Will this hurt his Hall of Fame chances? Because now because you can factor the off the field issues or alleged off the field issues, you can factor that. You can take that into consideration. And Justin Tucker, the way we were talking about him, how great he was as a kicker, he was destined to get into the Hall of Fame. So my thing is with the Hall of Fame, regardless of whatever crime or sin you've committed, I believe you still should be in because you should be able to compartmentalize. That's me. That's my opinion because I'll look at it with certain examples. Pittsburgh, Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, obviously, you got the two incidents, Lake Tahoe, Nevada, and of course, BRF and Champ, very well. Milledgeville, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
But Ben, I believe he will get in because of the two Super Bowls. As you mentioned, Champ, and we had a discussion about this, I believe, a year ago. Hey, he won it with two different head coaches. Not to mention, it's Pittsburgh. So, because of how unique the franchise, the organization is, I think he'll get in. And there have been tons of football players, tons of athletes that are in the Hall of Fame that have had off the field issues. Of course, Brett Favre, he got in despite the Vicodin addiction. despite the text, the pictures that he sent to Jen Sturger. But despite all of that, Brett Favre was still able to get into the Hall of Fame. Ray Lewis, greatest middle linebacker. But of course, when you think of Ray Lewis, you think the first thing that comes to your mind is Atlanta during Super Bowl weekend. You know, even though I don't believe he'll get into the Hall of Fame because, Lord have mercy, Antonio Brown, do I think he should be in the Hall of Fame based on his play and production? Yes, I do. But what's the likelihood of him getting to the Hall of Fame? I mean, Champ got a better chance fitting a Speedo than AB getting to the Hall of Fame. That's a story for another day.
I'm trying to run no damn Speedo, bro.
But in all seriousness, though, I think it's the end for Justin Tucker with these accusations. How he declined last year. How is he going to be not just physically but also mentally? Because we're seeing it now with Deshaun Watson. Not only his football career, but the Hall of Fame. You got to really ask yourself that question. I mean, certain kickers that stood out. There was him. There was Adam Vinatieri, Sebastian Janikowski. So, yeah. So he really hurt, in my opinion, his chances of getting to the Hall of Fame. So that's all I got to say about that, Champ.
Oh, man. When he comes to collect, he collects it all, don't he? Just being real. Guys, young men, old men, stop doing stuff thinking that it's not going to catch up with you. It is. It really is. Because who would have thought that he was doing all of that? I mean, and we talk about Deshaun Watson. Justin Tucker was taking it to a whole nother level. He was taking it to a whole nother level. The Baltimore Ravens do something. Because the thing is, it's just like you're not going to release a all-time great franchise player for no reason. You're not going to do it. If you have any doubts, then you wasn't going to do it. And so I believe that they saw something or made a discovery, and they made their evaluation from there. And rightfully so. Look, when we start, we see all of these allegations on many different things. When is the NFL going to come up with a ban for these SA and assault charge? When are they going to come up with a ban for it? And I know people are going to say it's a slippery slope, but the thing is, if your team has already released you, they already know something. Either they already feel like that you're going to get convicted, or if it's a civil suit that's coming along, you've already decided to settle or something like that. And they knew it was going to be a PR nightmare. So when are we going to start having conversations about being banned for life in the NFL? I mean, the thing is this. It wasn't until Ray Rice got in trouble that they had the 3-strike rule in the NFL for DV, domestic violence, family violence. When are we going to start having that same energy for these SA allegations? Because the thing is, that's not to say that anything else is not serious. That is serious, especially when you think about things that are going on in the world today. So when is it time to start having conversations about, look, you're banned for life, and until you can come up with information to either prove your innocence or either do some good grace community service, then you have to be banned for life. Because what's it going to say if you have a guy that's been responsible for all of those crimes in the Hall of Fame? There's another guy in the that was Hall of Fame eligible. He's in prison right now. One of the best safeties probably you're ever going to see, Darren Sharper.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, although he has the statistics, although he has the most touchdowns by over a turnover in NFL history, he's not going to get in there. He's going to be banned. And like I said, when are we going to get to the point where you kind of erase somebody from the NFL because of these certain allegations. Like I said, we've seen a lot of bad things in the NFL. We've seen Jamal Lewis and the trafficking charge, drug trafficking charge. We saw Dante
Dante
Stallworth
Stallworth.
with the accident, with the unfortunate accident. But when you talk about DV and stuff like that, there's a lot of news media behind. And you got to think about this. There's a lot of things, like I said, that's going on in the world right now that are insufferable. So when you bring that into the NFL, which is probably the most watched, that the NFL is the only game right now. I think you heard me talk about this. That's the only game where we don't have to bring drama into it. We don't have to make it like reality TV. The game sells itself. The stories create itself. It does that automatically. So you have to start asking yourself, when are we going to have to start implementing rules where these players that get allegations are either convicted of these crimes? When is it going to be a conversation of them getting kicked out of the league and banned for life? You ban Art Schlichter for gambling. Gambling's bad, but at the end of the day, it affects you. And maybe, depending on who you are, maybe your family. You kicked him out of the league. Paul Hornung was banned for a year. Alex Karras, he was banned for a long period of time, couldn't get into the Hall of Fame because of it. When are we going to start having these conversations where guys are getting kicked out of the league now? Because guess what? DV, domestic violence, SA, that's not to say anything else is not serious. But when you think about how far the world has come, the Me Too movement, a lot of stuff that goes on TikTok, which we won't talk about here on the dark side of TikTok. How much longer are you not going to have a situation or a clause in place where, okay, you get convicted of this particular crime, you get found guilty, a lawsuit come up and you are found liable? When are we going to start having a conversation about you getting kicked out of the league? And I'm not just talking about for SA. I'm talking about for DV as well. So when are we going to start having these conversations? Because is it going to get to the point where performance outweighs character?
Apparently that's the case, champ, because it seems like to me we've heard countless athletes that have done far egregious things, but to them owners, these players can help us. They can play, and they can also get money, help us make money. I mean, champ, do you remember Greg Hardy?
Yeah, and to your point, I think we talked about this above the air. It seems like everything starts kind of happening when their production went down.
Yeah, when production is high, so is tolerance. But once the production dips, tolerance is gone. And it seems to me with the Ravens, it was easier for them to move on from Justin Tucker, not just because of the accusations, but also his play.
Yeah.
Therefore, or in other words, was he really worth the trouble? To them, no. And plus, Baltimore, you dealt with Ray Rice. Over a decade ago, you dealt with Ray Rice, the controversy, the PR nightmare that the NFL, the rest of football received. Do you want to relive or go through something like that again? If you're Baltimore and if you're Roger Goodell, the commissioner, because again, don't be surprised if reporters, well-known, reputable female reporters like a Jamel Hill or somebody else calling you out for this.
And you got to think about this as well. You went through the Ray Lewis incident.
Yeah,
through the Ray Rice incident.
Yeah.
And when you went to remember Mount Cody when he retired from the game of football. Remember he had the pet fighting incident that caused him to go to prison. You've had a lot of character issue guys that it was like, wow. But when are we going to start having these conversations where you're getting banned? and you're not welcome here anymore. Because it's getting to a point. Because the thing is, Deshaun Watson, that was one thing. Now you're seeing it in a guy like Justin Tucker, who's taking it to a whole nother level. And if you read the details of that report, it's very, very gory and it's very, very disgusting.
Disturbing.
This to say that's being kind,
generous, which is why we will not tell you the exact details, because again, we're on the air. All you have to do, if you really want to know the exact details regarding that story, Google or whatever. But
yeah,
Champ, to me, it's really sad. It's really a fall from grace, because again, he was
is it
not
really
just
a fall from grace?
No,
is it really a fall from grace?
No. Here's why I say it, Champ.
Yeah,
because of Justin Tucker, because he was Dustin, because how great he was throughout his time with the Baltimore Ravens, and now you got fired, you were released by the team, you're gonna be dealing with the suspension. You probably no NFL team probably gonna take a chance on you. We don't know how you're gonna deal with it mentally. Like I said, mind controls the body. Regardless of your talent, regardless of your skill, if you don't have the mind to match with it as well, I don't give a damn. You're going to be gone. You're going to be lost. It's like a chicken with his head cut off. You lost. And you may not get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, because now you can factor the off the field issues. Shannon Sharpe, and he would know, he said back then you were never supposed to factor off the field issues. Now you can.
Yeah.
That's why I say fall from grace.
Is it really a fall from grace when you already messing up and you know you're messing up? And people, and the thing is, these NFL teams know everything. They know what you do. They know your counselors. They know everything what you're doing. At one point, if you really look back at the NFL, at the history of the NFL, I think it was Todd Marinovich. You remember Todd Marinovich, BRL? Remember Todd Marinovich? Remember at one point, Al Davis had a private detective on him who knew what drugs he was taking, where he was going, and when he was going. So these NFL teams, they got reach. So is it really a fall from grace when you're already planting bad seeds every single where you're going, and you just so happen to get caught? Or is it just you finally got caught doing the stuff that you've been doing? Is it really a fall from grace when you're reaping what you have sown?
Would you say Antonio Brown is a fall of grace?
No. The thing is, it's kind of like, I'm gonna make this comparison. This is something that we all can relate to. It's kind of like messing up in school. You just keep on going. And every time the principal sends you back to class, and finally you get into a fight and he suspends your ass, or he or she suspends your ass. Is it really a fall from grace? Is it just the world has had enough with your bull jive? Is it just everybody has had enough? With Antonio Brown, it built up for years. And you heard me talk about Mike Tomlin. Are you really a player's coach? Or are you an enabler at a certain point? So is it really a fall from grace when you finally get that tap on the shoulder of, all right, you're out of here? Or is it just like, okay, we're not going to tolerate this anymore. You've gone too far this time. And we really should have chastised your behind when you did the other stuff in the first place. But we gave you a pass because you were so darn good at your job. If a man gets fired because he's been stealing from the company, every time you look, he's still $1 from the company every time he goes out to eat, and they finally fire him. Is that really a fall from grace, or is that just them doing what they were supposed to do to you in the first place?
So in other words, what you're saying is you felt like it was only a matter of time.
Yes, it's only a matter of time when look, I make this comparison. You know this comparison, BRL. When you're doing all the wrong things, it's kind of like walking a path barefooted. And while you're walking that path going forward, you don't realize you have to walk back. So while you are walking that path, you're busting beer bottles behind you, throwing beer bottles behind yourself. Now it gets to the point where you're at the end of the road. Now you got to turn around. Look at what you left behind you. You left a bunch of beer bottles, busted beer bottles behind you. Now you got to walk across that stuff. And remember, you was walking barefooted on the way to the road where you were going. Now you got to walk back over that path barefooted once again. And now there's glass there. Do you really think you're not going to bleed to death? That's my point about it. When you bust glass behind yourself, and you got to walk that path again, and now your feet are bleeding, okay, is it really a fall from grace? Or is it the result of the beer bottles that you threw behind yourself, and now you have to walk back over that path that you just left a mess behind? Because you're going to have to walk back over that path. I don't care how much you try to avoid it. You're going to have to walk back over it. So when you have to walk back over it, is it really a fall from grace, or is it your actions catching up to you at a certain point? I think when you talk about a fall from grace, you talk about a person doing good things, a person doing great things, a person who was a humanitarian, a philanthropist, things like that. And then you think about one bad thing that may have happened in his life or her life. When you talk about guys who do the wrong thing all the darn time, but they're not getting checked for it, then all of a sudden they get checked about it. And is it really a fall from grace? Or are you finally getting that check that you wrote? And it's finally getting cash?
Champ, I think two things could be true. Because when I first heard these accusations, I'm like, what? With Justin Tucker? Because again, I could be wrong. It's not like Justin Tucker before, we didn't hear this type of character or this type of behavior until the accusations. Same thing with Deshaun Watson. I mean, it could be two things could be true, because look, we may not necessarily know the person. We're not around them. We don't meet with them. We don't hang out with them. But we, just like anybody, we wish everybody the best. And we would like to believe or assume that they're good people. And then when we hear all these accusations, these allegations, which are horrifying, I mean, I do think it is kind of, I think for me, I look at it as a fall from grace because I'm looking at it from the outside. But Champ, you're looking at it from the perspective, if you know that person, someone very well, and if you've seen that person do something so horrible numerous times, then you don't look at it as a fall from grace.
No.
You look at it as whatever's done in the dark will always come into light. That perhaps that could be the situation with Justin Tucker.
Look, I'm going to just be real. This is something that my father told me. Never think that you are getting away with something, because it's always going to find its way to the light. Real quick story. When I was a kid, right? My grandmother, God rest her soul, my grandmother Dorothy, she used to live on Shaw Street. She used to have this big old trunk full of ice cream sandwiches. And what me and my cousin used to do, so she wouldn't catch us, we used to grab that big old box of ice cream sandwiches, which was like 5 in a pack. We used to split them, and we used to go up under the house and eat them. So eventually, you know who caught me? My mom. She was like, I know where your ice cream sandwich is at. And she went outside and looked up under the house. There was all those ice cream wrappers, because you're not thinking as a child that your mom is somebody's gonna check up under the house, but they knew right where to go. That's the thing. People know exactly what the hell you're doing when you're out here doing certain things, even if it's eating the ice cream sandwich up under your grandmother's house. And that's something minor. But when you're doing all of these certain things, do you really think that you being in a town like Baltimore, that they're not going to hear about it? Word of mouth, everybody is chirping. Everybody's talking. So, yeah, and the reason why I tell that story is when you think you're getting away with something and then you leave evidence behind, especially when you leave evidence behind, you're gonna get caught eventually. And like I said, them was just ice cream sandwich wrappers. Look at what Tuck was doing. So when you think you're getting away with something, no, you're not. You're gonna get caught. And when you get caught, that full force of that hammer gonna come down on that behind. And like I said, it's not really a fall from grace for guys like Antonio Brown, for guys like Deshaun Watson, for guys like that. It's really you stopping and going back over that path that you just walked back over. That's all that is. And once you have to do that, then it's a whole nother ball game after that. It's not really a fall from grace when everybody know you're messing up. But you can best believe if you messing up, somebody know you messing up. Somebody done checked you about it. Somebody done told you something about it, or somebody done said something to you when you messing up. My brother used to tell me all the time when I'm messing up. When I used to mess up in school, hey man, you better stop messing up in school, bro. Mind you, my brother, he had his GED. He's still better stop messing up. Lo and behold, report card day comes. Oh damn! Now you got 3 C's and 2 F's. Now you got to go home and you got to explain why this is going on. Now, not doing your home. Now your parents not seeing you doing your homework. That's it. You can't explain it. Your parents are not seeing you. Your parents told you, I'll never see you doing no homework. I'll never see you doing this. You go straight outside. You get right on that game after school. What are you doing? Your grades better be right. And my brother told me. So everybody knows what you're doing when you're doing the wrong thing. Either you're not getting checked by it, you got a bunch of yes men around you, or they're just looking the other way because you're the meal ticket. A lot of things can be true at once.
BRF.
The whole situation is unfortunate with him. I mean, and I can see it. Honestly, when you look at the last year of his career, like you can kind of a fall from grace. You can kind of say it because I mean, this man is in greatest place kicker of all time conversation. A lot of people's greatest place kicker ever. And just with what he's done in Baltimore, the consistency, the strength of his leg, it's unfortunate. But I mean, at the same time, you know, you got to. This is one of those things where you just have to kind of like you have to you know what I'm saying? You got to suffer the consequences. I mean, you if you did all these things, I guess they're looking at it as far as the suspension from the stand from like the Deshaun Watson case. I mean, when he ultimately got, I mean, when he was finally ready to play and they had to give him the suspension, how he ultimately got the 10 games. So I mean, you kind of have to if you're the NFL, you kind of have to match that energy with the Justin Tucker situation. You pretty much have to match that energy. So surprising that is this soon. Yeah, wasn't expecting. Yeah, maybe expecting an announcement, but not like June. Maybe maybe mid-August or something like that. When we get around like training camp and stuff like that, maybe around that time, but definitely not, into June where you're expecting this announcement like that. But I guess it's just one of those things where they're trying to set a precedent here as far as like these cases continually, coming up every so often. And, I guess, and Champ was talking about the whole, banning from the game. I think if this happened, if something like this were to happen again, if I'm the NFL, you have to like really look into something like that if you're the NFL because you can't keep having these players get involved in these domestic violence situations and then ultimately come back because you really don't have no precedent, no guideline in place to really punish these guys for something like this. I mean, it's one of those situations where you don't want it to get out of hand.
So do you do it like baseball? 3 strikes, you out?
I mean, you have to. I think it's a little bit of a stickier subject when you're talking about domestic violence, though. But honestly, I think you have to go. You have to go to 3 strikes and you're out rule. Like the first strike is 10 games, the second time is a year, and the third is a lifetime ban. I think you have to. I think you have to. I think coming up now, I think it's getting that to a point with the NFL where you have to If this happens again, you have to make a statement with the next person. I think you have to make a statement with the next person. You might, for the next person, even though it might be a first-time offense, for the next person, you might have to go a year-long suspension, depending on how bad the situation is, to really put your foot down and send a message out there. Do you want to do it? No, you don't want to do it. But you don't want these cases to keep popping up year in and year out. And it's one of those things where the NFL needs to take control of it before an even worse situation happen. And I don't even. I had a joke for the situation, but I'm not even gonna say it. I want to, but I'm not gonna say it because I know we respect our airtime here. We kind of need to keep it that way. So I ain't gonna make no Justin Tucker joke right now. But
just tell us that off the air. Just tell us
yeah, that is definitely an off the air situation right there. Definitely an off the air situation. But to get back to the nitty gritty of the whole thing, yeah, I think you just have to really, like, if you're the NFL and you see the Deshaun Watson situation, you see the Justin Tucker situation, which is like even worse than the Deshaun Watson situation, and that's saying something considering how bad the Deshaun Watson situation was. To saying that this situation is worse, that's like I don't know how he managed to outkick his coverage and stupid, but he really did. He really did to get himself in a situation like that. So yeah, the NFL is gonna have to really nip this in the bud, and it would be unfortunate if this was to come up again to result in a year-long suspension from the league. But you might just have to, with the next case, to make that statement that this is not going to be tolerated, and y'all really need to watch your hands and watch how you act in certain situations, like especially around women, or like your personal trainers and your massage therapists and stuff like that. You got to be careful. You really need to monitor your attitude and watch how you are around them. Otherwise, if this happens again, we may get you for a year to show every player in the league that this is not going to be tolerated. If it keeps going, the next high profile case comes up, you might have to lay that hammer down.
I don't know, champ, if I would go as far as saying a ban just yet. I believe in second chances. I believe look, domestic violence essay, as egregious as it is, I believe in second chances. You paid your price one time, but if you do it again, you have to consider ban. You have to. I don't think, and champ, the reason why I'm actually kind of shocked you went as far as saying ban, because again, there are gonna be some people that are gonna be pissed off what you and I have to say, because they look at Michael Vick, particularly. Well, he killed dogs. He served time in prison. They're like, wait a minute, how could someone like him get a second chance? But you've explained the story, champ. Which prison that he went to?
He went to Fort Leavenworth. And number two, and I'm not going to denigrate dogs, but the thing is, these are women.
I know.
I put myself in a situation. My bad. I'm sorry. I mean, interrupt. Go ahead.
No, it's all good, champ. And I agree with you. Yeah. I'm not trying to say what Michael Vick did was okay.
No.
But you're talking about women, and you're talking about moms, aunts, nieces, granddaughters. You're talking about all kinds of women. And don't be. I'm the reason why I mentioned the Mike Vick one, because there are going to be some people on social media. They're going to say some of this type of stuff, though. So I'm just letting you know what's going to happen.
The thing is this: I used to be an amateur fighter, and my thing is, as a guy, you play around in the locker room. But when the girls and the women used to come around, whether that be the trainer, whether that be the cheerleaders, because the cheerleaders used to put, well, not the cheerleaders, but the spirit team, they used to put candy in your locker room and stuff like that before games when I was playing football. And the thing is, what I used to do was I would wear a full sweatsuit. I would wear my full sweatsuit when I was in the locker room when I know they was there. because you didn't want the perception in order to be there. You didn't even want to make it even be a thing where someone can accuse you of something. If you really want an example on how to conduct yourself, look at Keanu Reeves. When he takes a picture with women, he always has his thumbs up and like this, right? Because he don't even want to give off that perception. So you have to think about yourself, and you got to think about this. How would you want your mother to be treated? How would you want your sister to be treated? If you heard about somebody like this and they acting real kind of brand new and kind of acting fresh, you mean to tell me you're not going to pay them a visit? Regardless if you're a football player or not. Hey, in the great words of 50 Cent, my 4/5 will lift you and your bitch press. So be mindful. That's the thing. Even when, like I said, as an amateur fighter, when I knew trainers and even in the Army, hey man, make sure you got all your stuff on, man. You don't want to leave no room for perception. Perception is reality. Perception is reality. So I used to keep, and my thing is, it could be in the summertime. I used to have a black sweatsuit I used to wear. I used to put it on. Everybody, hey, the nurses are coming up here. Oh, spirit team's coming up here. Okay, let me put my. So why you putting on a whole sweatsuit? Because they'll never be able to say I did anything inappropriate, or I was dressed inappropriate, or I walked out inappropriate. You got a whole sweatsuit on. You leave no room for even a mistake to happen. And that's the thing. When you're dealing with situations like that, you can't leave no room for any type of error. I understand that people are going to say, well, things do happen and people do tell stories, tell lies. But the thing is, when you have yourself covered, it leaves no room for people to say that you would do something like that.
You don't want to give people the impression.
You don't want to give people the impression. That's why I said I used to wear a full sweatsuit in the summer. When I knew the nurses and the trainer was coming up, I used to wear a full sweatsuit. Or either I used to have one of the other ladies or gentlemen come over there while we was talking, so you can have a witness. You have to do everything to protect yourself and protect your reputation. It says in the 48 Laws of Power, you have a reputation, guard it with your life. So guess what? You have to guard your reputation, especially when you have millions, maybe billions of dollars on the line. You have to guard that with your life. You have the Hall of Fame on the line, your legacy on the line. You have to guard that with your life. So the thing is, don't put yourself into any situation where it could even be perceived that you're doing something inappropriate. It can even be perceived, because you can rest assured there's always that one. You could get away with something a million times. It only takes one time for you to get caught. If you're the bad guy, you got to be lucky a million times. The good guys only got to be lucky once. So that's how come I say, hey, because you have to put yourself in a position where you're not even in that situation, especially when it comes to that, especially when and this happened even before Deshaun Watson's situation. This happened even before that.
Through 2012 through 2016, according to the reports. But again, man, it's really really horrendous news. But I kind of like what you mentioned about the banishment part, champ. I don't believe one incident should define someone. I don't believe that should be like a death sentence. I believe, hey, you committed this act, you have to suffer the consequences. Take some time for you to grow and learn and make sure that this doesn't happen again, because you're already on notice. So if I'm the NFL, you have to send a clear message to everyone. This type of behavior will not be tolerated, and there will be consequences. Would I go as far as a ban? Not necessarily yet. I do believe in forgiveness and moving on. I believe if someone messes up, they suffer the consequences. And once they finish their punishment, then they can move on as well as the rest of us. But if the NFL, if they don't handle the situation, all hell's going to break loose.
Yes, indeed.
Mm-hmm.